Welcome into a brand new edition of the Who's Better Baseball podcast, where we figure out the age-old question, who's better in the wonderful game of baseball? I'm Patrick Lyons, and joining me today, hot off the bench. Look, Ryan needed a day off. He needed a rest day. And who better but the next best guy that we've got? Probably would start in most people's lineup, Clay Snowden. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, Fink is just down from the Mets, and he needed a couple of days to recover and whatnot. So I was happy to step in.
Yeah, and you cover two teams. You do a good job with that with both the Detroit Tigers and Cincinnati Reds. And both of them, despite kind of the intrigue, I think, from the offseason and from some of those younger guys, and it's still early enough, it's been maybe a little bit disappointing, I guess, right?
Yeah, the Reds you can just write off to a massive amount of injuries and no LV Marte suspension. The Tigers are a roller coaster. One day they look great, and you talk yourself into it. The next day they're horrible. So who knows? It like you said, it's a long season, but we'll see where we are in September.
And the Tigers are getting some exciting pitching. They just need some other pieces to
Yeah.
start playing. Javi Baez is a player that obviously is not living up to the contract covering the Colorado Rockies. I definitely have to deal with something similar. So you and I are very much in the same boat.
It's funny because there's been discussion of like, would the Rockies trade Chris Bryant for Javi Baez? And I was like, why we even discuss this? What's the point?
I want to talk about that perhaps. No, yeah, that just would never
Who's
happen
worse
for.
baseball?
I know who's worse. Yes, that could be a spinoff we have to do every like
Yeah.
April Fools or something like that. But look, we're talking baseball here on June 2nd, and I got to say the biggest story in baseball right now has to be the New York Yankees. Has to be Aaron Judge after the month that he just had. They haven't announced the player of the month for May, but it's a no-brainer. I mean, did anyone throw 3 no-hitters that I was maybe not aware
I
of?
don't think so.
Because Aaron Judge is just on a completely other level. And it just has to beg the question that right now with Judge clicking away that he's been Juan Soto, 2 home runs today, a bunt single as well in the 3-game sweep of the San Francisco Giants. Have the Yankees emerged as the best team in MLB?
It's starting to click. And each year, we see it on paper. They look good. And these past few years, they just, well, longer than that, really, they haven't lived up to the Yankees standard. And when you have Judge and then they bring in Soto, the question just becomes, is this a 1 year Soto stint? If this doesn't happen, what's going on with the Yankees? Judge has stepped up his game. Soto's been incredible. I know you all talked in the past about which one of those could be MVP and if they could battle each other out. And Judge, when I was looking at his stats, Patrick, in the month of May, this guy just loves May. 326 career average in the month of May. He has had 12 or more home runs in May the past 3 years. 12, 12, and 14 are the totals from the past 3 years. But the difference this year was 12 doubles this year, which was actually higher than his previous high of 6 and the lowest strikeout rate that he's ever had in May. This guy's clicking. The team's clicking. Right now, I mean, they're talking about Jason Dominguez is about to come up, and they don't know where to put him. That's a good problem to have.
Dominguez and Aaron Judge in the same lineup, in the same batting cage for a home run derby during batting practice. I mean, that they're definitely going to put on an interesting show. It's certainly an embarrassment of riches for the Yankees, who frankly have not had very many deep runs into the postseason. And look, baseball we know is much different than most of the other sports where it takes more than just 2 or 3 really quality players to get to that next level. It's not just a singular QB and a bunch of guys that you immediately make better just because of your presence. So Soto and Judge aside, you need more of those guys to step up and do that. And that's one of the reasons why I think that they haven't won a World Series or even appeared in one since 2009. So this definitely seems like it's theirs for the taking, especially after the news coming out of Baltimore, where both Tyler Wells and John Means needed Tommy John surgery. Their UCLs blew right out. And so now Baltimore's down a little bit more. You know they're going to be there in October, but the window definitely seems to be open for the Yankees to make a run this postseason.
It doesn't it feel like in sports, the upcoming young team always kind of has to earn it. It takes a couple years. Like even if they're so talented, they have to have that heartbreaking loss or the come up short or the injury season. It never seems to click in year one or two. It usually takes a little bit when your core of 22-year-olds becomes your core of 26 to 30-year-olds. That just seems to be the case. So everything's kind of lining up for the Yankees right now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens once they approach the deadline. Do they need to replace somebody because of an injury or underperformance? What the need may be and how aggressive they will be there.
What's also so interesting about this, Ryan and I have talked a ton about, Ronald Acuna Jr. being out and Atlanta still being a contender for the postseason despite losing arguably their two best players, certainly their best pitcher, their best position player. And the Yankees have been able to do this without Garrett Cole. In fact, right now on June 2nd, on the evening, this Sunday night, they've got the best ERA in all of baseball, 2.78 for their pitching staff. We know how good the bullpen has been for them. But even still, to do all this without someone like Garrett Cole, and as you said, look, they're going to add at the trade deadline. They have a lot of those prospect pieces, and they know that their window is very much now, especially if the uncertainty with re-signing Soto is there. You may need to put all your eggs in this year's basket. How impressive is it that they've been able to do this without their perennial Cy Young Award candidate?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And they've had some guys step up, and it just shows, like you said, how much of a team effort baseball really is. And it is a really who has the most depth at times, because there's going to be times during the season where you have injuries and underperformance, and guys have to step up. You can't be rolling out a bunch of quad A guys. The Yankees just they've been rolling without their best pitcher and one of the best pitchers in the entire league. So hopefully Garrett Cole comes back healthy, rested, and ready to roll towards October.
Yeah, Luis Gil being that guy where out of nowhere, look, we've talked plenty about Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Shota Imanaga being these two Rookie of the Year award candidates that may get some Cy Young Award votes. Luis Gil almost coming out of nowhere, still a young guy. A nice trade acquisition for the Yankees, who's really flourishing right now. 7-1 on the season, a 1.99 ERA, and he has just really assumed that role that Garrett Cole kind of would have as part of a three-headed monster or more alongside Marcus Stroman, sub-3 so far this season. Carlos Rodon, talk about a player who might be winning an award this offseason as the American League Comeback Player of the Year. And Nestor Cortez still at about 3.5 and below with his ERA. So the entire rotation is chipping in despite Garrett Cole's absence.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch, and I don't usually like watching the Yankees. It's just I watch every team, Quad Box, MLB TV, whatnot, but I usually don't put on the Yankees games. This year I have been, and I feel almost guilty about it. Like something there is like I'm supposed to hate this team just naturally, and I don't. It's been fun to watch. I like that they have some of the younger guys, some new homegrown talent coming through, and you get to watch Juan Soto and Aaron Judge.
And from both sides of the plate too, which makes it that much more interesting. The different body types too. I mean, no one really has Aaron Judge's body type other than Sean Jelly. Did you see that they almost set a record for tallest pitcher versus tallest hitter?
I think
Sean
he's
Jelly 6'11". Yeah,
6'11", is that right? Oh my gosh, man. And when you think about how crazy that is with his extension, how close he is to home plate when he releases the ball, man, he could be an effective pitcher. Plus, it's just weird. You're so used to a release point around here, and then you bring in a basketball player to throw a baseball, and it can really just change everything about your at bat. So it's one of those strange things about baseball you don't see too often, but when you do, it's pretty cool.
yeah. If you get a chance to see Sean Jelly pitch for the Giants, you'll watch him pitch, or you might just watch him hand the ball to the catcher.
Yeah,
Technically, that's what he's doing with his extension. Yeah, seeing him in the dugout, his head scrapes the top of
yeah.
most dugouts. It certainly was the case, at least at Coors Field. But yeah, I was thinking about this earlier today with Soto hitting 2 more home runs, saying, "Hold on a second, Aaron Judge. Like you had a really good month, but we are like a third of the way through the season. Let's make this interesting." I'm kind of curious. Could we have a pair of 50 home run sluggers on the same squad? I mean, is the last time something like that has happened in 1961, Roger Maris, Aaron
Yeah.
Judge, and Roger Maris, Aaron Judge. No, Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Could be.
You talk about a storyline. That would be it right there for the whole summer, especially with the Yankees and the history and Juan Soto contract year, all of the aspects that play into it. Man, that could be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. But yeah, that Yankees team, it has a certain feel this year that I thought it had not had in the past. Of the previous few years, it seemed like they were just coming up short with somewhere, with something. Even when they were playing well, it's, oh, well, Anthony Volpe's not there yet. He's not really performing yet. There's always this, which Glaber Torres are we getting this month? The good one or the bad one? There's always something. This year, a lot fewer questions.
All right. So then the $1 million question I have to ask you, Clay, here is still early on in the season, but are you taking the Yankees to at least represent the American League in the World Series this year, or would you rather the field?
Oh, I mean, I would always take the field in a situation like this. Just statistically speaking, especially like the Phillies making a run, wild card, and Arizona as well. Like you just don't know with baseball, but it is tough, and it's going to come down to that deadline and really who's the most aggressive. And we know the Yankees are. I don't want to say the hungriest because I don't want it to make it sound like other teams aren't, but like the Yankee standard has not been met. This is the best chance that they've had to meet it. Like, what's to say that they won't go out and make the deal that they need to make to push them over the hump? I think that they have a lot going for them right now, and if it's one player, I'd be willing to trade just about anybody from their farm system.
Yeah, so many good points you made there. Like thinking about being hungry. Like they hadn't won since 2009, which for them, that is a
Yeah,
major drought. 15 years,
must
right?
be
Like
nice. Yeah.
yeah, like that's a really a long time. And prior to that, it was less than 10 years, right? The late 90s dynasty that they had there. And so there's like a young generation of Yankees fans that don't know what that experience is like. And those that were old enough to remember it in 2009 have a lot of disposable income to go back. And same thing with it with if you were around in the late 90s, you want to come back and see this next great Yankees team. And so that obviously has a ton of value to the Yankees front office and trying to win that World Series. It'll be interesting to see just how all in they go because you do have to try to sustain this just a little bit. Now, for talking about the field, the team with the second best record right now in the American League, the Cleveland Guardians, got to have some doubts with their being a young pitching staff in general. They're young overall. You could probably make the case that they have the same challenge, if you will, as the Baltimore Orioles, right? Like they've got that hurdle to prove that they're the ones, and they might even be a year behind the Orioles, who already had that taste last year in the postseason, whereas this young group of the Guardians has it. You could say that about a lot of the Seattle Mariners players, and they've got arguably an even better starting rotation, one through
Hmm.
five, 1 through 6, because they're so deep. So, there are those teams that are going to battle the Yankees, but when you look at it from that perspective, if it's not the Yankees, then maybe it's the Orioles. But even still, the Yankees have to be the favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. And after I said exactly what you just said about kind of having to earn it, I'm thinking like, oh, well, the Diamondbacks didn't really have to earn much last year, and they made it there. But usually the case, and Baltimore's that other team, and again, we'll see at the deadline. They have so many prospects that need to be moved. Like they just have to. At some point, your 40-man roster is going to be stacked, and you're going to have to leave players exposed. So they're at a point where it feels all like not all in, like this is the last ditch effort, but it feels all in terms of we have the core established. We're happy with where we are. They're under contract, new owner. Let's make a splash. Now's the time to make a splash for them. So when it comes to the deadline and the Yankees and Baltimore, it's who's going to come out of that deadline with the bigger move, the more impactful move. I think the Yankees have the thirst for the biggest move possible. I think Baltimore has the pieces for two legit impact moves. So we'll see what that looks like at the end and how it bounces out. But it's fun. It's a fun storyline to watch for the next month plus. I guess
No,
2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying because Baltimore, their window of contention just opened up
Mhm.
last season and they've got this core. And so they still need those younger pieces, those minor leaguers, not the guys in Norfolk, like you said. You might
Yeah,
as well just offload those guys. Otherwise, they're just gonna be a bench piece for you when you could bring back a really talented player. But they're thinking long term, right? They've got several bites at the apple. And the Yankees always have a bite at the apple. They literally play in the Big Apple. But
yeah.
you're right; they're going to look for that best player, that impact guy, especially if it costs a little bit more. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. It's going to be interesting to see if we've got another Maris Mantle situation on our
Mhm.
hands when it comes to Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. Now, sticking in the American League East, you're the perfect guy for this because you dig the uniforms. And in fact, you checked off two boxes with the cap you're wearing today because it's not just a Rockies cap, but it's one of their Rockies City Connect caps. This weekend, the Toronto Blue Jays unveiled their new City Connect uniforms with somewhat mixed results. I saw probably a couple more positive comments than negatives. What were your thoughts on the unveiling of the Blue Jays' new City Connect?
The strange thing about the City Connects with me personally, a lot of them I've disliked when I first see them. Fast forward 2 weeks later, I like them. I'm a Reds fan. I did not like them at first. Now they're one of my favorites. They just you see them. I think with the release of them, it's just you build up this idea. This is the greatest jersey I'm ever going to see. It's not, and then it looks different once it's on the field, on the players. You see it in action a little bit better. A lot of teams are going with this black. The Tigers just did black and blue. Toronto's black, blue, red. Reds black and red as well. I thought Toronto's was fine. And I did exactly what every person should do, and just ask your wife, who knows nothing about baseball, hey, I'm going to show you all the City Connect jerseys. You tell me the ones that are good and bad. And her responses were, and she has no tie to baseball whatsoever. Ew, I hate the Phillies ones. Oh, I love the Padres ones. It was pretty like spot on for a lot of how people feel and all. But I thought Toronto's were fine. I thought they were middle of the pack. There's a lot that I like better and a lot that I really dislike. I didn't dislike
I would probably also put them somewhere middle of the pack, but below the average. I think. I again can't say necessarily that I dislike them, but I definitely don't like them. I've had the similar feelings with a lot of the City Connect. For me, the ones that I think look the best when they first come out, when I see him on the field, it loses something in translation. Like you first see the unveiling and you go, "Oh, okay. The whole point of this is to connect the game, the field with the city. Like it's fashion. Like you're supposed to be able to wear it around town." And so the ones that look kind of the coolest when they first, show it off, when you see it on the field, it doesn't look
them.
right. Like the Washington Nationals one, I love. You're like, "Hey, a little bit of pink in there. That's
Yeah.
cool." And then you see it on the field and it's almost too gray and it doesn't have enough of that
Yep.
pink. The Arizona Diamondbacks one I thought looked amazing at first. And then when it's on the field, it just looks a little maybe left of center. It's still great. I still like it. But it's just interesting how that works. The ones that I don't like how they look at first. Like I think the Marlins, I was like, I don't think I like it. And then it looks great on
Mhm.
the field. So
Yeah. Yeah. And like that one, so like Arizona's I love. I tweeted out something about just like Arizona has the most underrated City Connect uniforms. The responses were, "You're an idiot. These are terrible," or "They're awesome. These are the best." Like there was zero in between. You love or you hate those, and it kind of feels that way. Detroit recently released theirs, Motor City across the front. I thought at first, like, I don't really like them. I saw them live in action, and they've grown on me a little bit. I like kind of the shirts that have come out with the logos and stuff. I do think the thing with a lot of these City Connects is they've either gotten too bland or boring or simple. But the other thing is we're spoiled by like graphic designers putting stuff out for free on Twitter. And the ones that are really good get pushed all over Twitter and you see them and you think, this is incredible. This is better than what the person. Well, there's also a million bad ones that don't get retweeted. So it is a difficult job. But overall, like another one that grew on me was the Rays. Release, I thought I didn't really pay much mind to them. Then I saw them in action, and I was like, okay. I mean, these are so cool. I'm a 30-year-old living in Lexington, Kentucky. Like, I can't pull off the Rays look of those. They're too much for me personally to pull off, but I love the way that they look.
See, here I disagree with you because I think you'd look amazing in a neon belt. Like I think
Yeah.
that would look great. That little detail again is something you don't get with the jersey itself on its own, but you get it in the uniform. The Rays was one that I liked from the beginning. It translates. It looks really well. There's been a lot this year, and there's still two more to come out. The Dodgers and the Twins. I was actually talking with someone in the press box over the weekend. They were like, "Oh no, the Twins already have one. What's that one that says Twin Cities and it's cream and navy?" And I was like, "No, that was just part of their rebrand
Mhm.
last year. I don't know what the Twins have in store. The Dodgers, there's one that leaked, right? That looked like funfetti. It just looked
Yeah,
like the
like
Dodgers
polka
one
dots on it. Yeah.
with just little like sprinkles on it in general. So we'll wait and see. I think both of those do come out before the All-Star break, and then that just leaves the A's and the Yankees.
Oh gosh, the A's
Fittingly,
are gonna put the worst amount of effort into it.
if
I can
if
get
at
that.
all. I mean, you've got a team like the
What if they
Yankees
don't
who
do it?
kind of, yeah. Well, the Yankees don't want to, right? Because they're like, hey, you can't mess with perfection here. And the A's are like, well, we just don't know if it says Sacramento. If it's City Connect,
Yeah.
we don't know what city we're going to play in. And I'll say, I've said this before too publicly. What the Yankees could do to look really sharp to incorporate another color, because they're not going to really want to go away from the white and the navy. You could either bring out sort of a copper tone or a like mint green tone that plays off of the Statue of Liberty. Like, okay, originally
Ooh,
it's made of copper. Like you think of like bronze statues all throughout New York City. That plays off nice, I think, with the navy and the white. Or again, if you want to use some kind of Statue of Liberty as your logo, but stick with mostly navy and white with a touch of that like mint green, I think that would look good.
that's that's awesome. You know what they're gonna do? They're just gonna change the pinstripes to be small numbers of all of their retired numbers, and it's just good
That's not bad.
from a distance. It's just gonna look normal. But if you get up really close to the magnifying glass, you can see the retired numbers going down, and
That's
they'll
not
claim,
bad.
"Hey, we did it. Here we did." But my favorite are the Rockies, and that's why I bought this hat when I went to Coors. And I thought those were just awesome. I love that they went and said we're gonna put something really obnoxious, the big old Rocky Mountains on the front. Like we don't care. I love the green, the touch of purple. I would have liked a little bit more purple in it, but overall, I think those are the best. Padres another. Like we're just gonna go with something crazy here. Love that. Brewers were good. Reds, Rays. The only ones I truly think are like, get these out of here. These are terrible. Mets. I get what they were doing there. Did not like them. Philly. I just don't get it. Pittsburgh felt lazy, and the Giants. They look so bad on TV. I hate the Giants ones. Those might be my least favorite ones.
The Giants one looked great, I think, at the start because that was like probably one of the first five.
Yeah.
And then you're right. Then you start to see more. I didn't like the Red Sox at first because I originally thought that the concept was like, oh, just take the team colors and just tweak it and
Yeah.
just make another new uniform before I understood, okay, no, this is like a whole different project. And then again, it looks great on the field,
Hmm.
honoring the Boston Marathon, the city of Boston, looking really sharp. So yeah, there's been a lot of good ones. The Mets one's okay. The helmet I don't like, right? With the
No.
bridge on it. That looks really weird and strange. The Cardinals one was okay. The Lou.
I thought that was just a little lazy. Like
Yeah, I would agree.
I think they could have been more creative. Is it true this is the first time they've ever worn a red jersey? I saw someone say, or maybe it was they not a red jersey, but a there's some like first time they've ever done something with this red. Maybe it was a helmet. I don't know what it was, but I thought, yeah, this is typical Cardinals, just like sticking to very much their like tradition here. I thought they could have gone really cool with the arch somehow, like I don't know, like it's fine. At the end of the day, it is a jersey, but Cardinals, I was kind of like, eh. And what I've seen from the Dodgers release is golf clap for doing something less traditional than usual for the Dodgers, but at the same time, like wasn't that impressed.
Yeah, their original one was they just didn't try. They threw the word "los" in front, and it's like,
Yeah,
no, this isn't Copa de la Diversión. This isn't the minor league thing. This isn't the Fun
yeah,
Cup. We're not doing that whatsoever. So, yeah, Cleveland Guardians also came out this year, stuck to the same colors. It looks good. It looks sharp, but
yeah.
you're right. Didn't advance. Didn't do anything drastically different. What I find to be interesting is you started off by saying a lot of the newer jerseys that have come out, like I guess almost like the last two of the last three, with Detroit and Toronto now using the black. Not a ton of teams have used green, just the Rockies. No one has really used purple as a larger color. The Mets have it as an accent color. I think
Right.
the Rays, of course, have used the purple. I think there might have been another one out there that kind of used a touch of purple. But it's interesting that none of those other colors have kind of been
Mm.
utilized like a green and like a purple like the Rockies did.
It was funny. I don't remember the exact first ones to come out, but I remember like Wrigleyville was one of the first, and I thought, okay, like this is fine. And a lot of the first ones were like, oh yeah, that's fine. Then the Padres were like, yeah, we're having two different color sleeves. It's gonna be neon. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be loud. And like they just, when you look at the Wrigleyville one next to the Padres, it is night and day, night and day.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if some of these teams end up doing a 2.0 City Connect because
I
you know,
hope so.
yeah, I think it could happen because this is benefiting Nike. Like the bottom
Mhm.
line is this is a Nike initiative to basically get a lot of new uniforms that are out there for youth teams. They've got with these sublimated names on the back and on the front, so it's a lot easier and kind of cheaper to make. And if you ever go on a weekend to like a little league field and you see some kind of tournament and there's kids there playing, you're seeing a lot of teams rocking the all black with the white pinstripe South Side, but
Mhm.
maybe they're from the north side and it says north side on it. You know what I mean? Like it's about making new jerseys, getting some new life out there, and it's about money. That's the bottom line with the City
And
Connect.
I was at the Tigers game last weekend, a week, 2 weeks after they released it. The line was out the door. People were buying hats, shirts, sweatshirts, jerseys, every single thing you can imagine with it. And online on Twitter, I didn't see like it was pretty mixed emotions. No, like, oh my God, this is incredible. And it was a fine design. It wasn't anything special, but like you said, people want the new thing. I mean, I'm sitting here with evidence. I went to a Rockies game. Already had a Rockies hat, by the way. I said, I gotta have this. I paid ballpark price for this hat because it was so damn cool.
The outfit's perfect. Rocky City Connect cap, just baseball shirt on.
Yeah.
Go support justbaseball.com. Pick one of those bad boys up. All right. Well, you mentioned the Pittsburgh Pirates. If we're talking Pittsburgh Pirates, we got to talk about Paul Skenes in the record books. Yet again, 4 starts, 30 strikeouts, 5 or less walks. That is rarefied air since 1911. Only Paul Skenes, his teammate Jared Jones this year, Masahiro Tanaka, Steven Strasburg, Felix Hernandez, and Gary Nolan. No, believe it or not, I had not heard of him. As the only pitcher since 1901 in their first 4 starts were able to do 30 or more strikeouts and 5 or less walks. Paul Skenes, are we looking at a guy who's going to be better than Steven Strasburg? That's where I'm setting the bar. Clay Snowden, what do you think?
Yeah, and a lot of times whenever I see these guys come up, it's okay, what's working for them? They're throwing 58% fastball. They have a wicked slider coming in at 40% of their pitches, maybe a changeup, whatever it is. Skeens can dominate with any of his pitches. The changeup is the big thing for me. If he can make that a plus changeup, keep in mind he's 22. And I always say to people, go pick out your favorite pitcher, look at how they mix their pitches the first 5 years of their career, and you'll see jumps up and down, what they've thrown it, how they've tweaked it. It takes time to kind of zero in on what you need. Skeens can throw all of his pitches. Every one of his pitches has a 25% or higher whiff rate on it so far. He is able to get people out in many different ways. He's not relying solely on a fastball that is 100 miles an hour in that like splinker, splunker, splitter type pitch that he has. Like, he can dominate you in more than one way. And if for whatever reason one of them's not there that day, he has three other pitches that he can go to that are still effective. I see in Skenes somebody who's going to be at the front of that rotation and in the front of discussion amongst Cy Young awards, amongst All Star games, amongst best pitcher in baseball. Like he has that type of talent. And even though I'm a Reds fan, like I'm happy that he's on Pittsburgh. I am glad that they have somebody out there that people want to tune into. It's the same with me and Ellie De La Cruz in Cincinnati. We're not used to having a star. You know what I mean? We're not used to other fans tuning in to these games. And it's cool to see the city of Pittsburgh after many up and down years. And sure, they've had Kutch and, Brian Hayes is a good player. And, they've had a few guys there. But at the end of the day, this is a appointment television type player. And the more cities that get those type of people, the better. So I'm cheering for Skenes. I think he's been excellent so far. Only 3 extra base hits given up all season. And the group is funny. 2 home runs, Matt Vierling, Nico Horner, and the double was Mike Talkman. Just a bizarre group of not power hitters. So Skenes doing a hell of a job so far.
Yeah, you said the word superstar, and one of those things that you don't have to have, but he certainly does have it, is a notable significant other in
Yeah,
Livy Dunn. And that's one of those intangibles that says, okay, people are a little bit more interested. They want to know what's going on with this guy. And for him to be doing it with someone like Pittsburgh, and you say, okay, this seems fair, right? These smaller market clubs, you're right, don't have a lot of appointment viewing type players, and they get those opportunities in the draft, but it doesn't always come to fruition. I mean, I can remember it must have been 2022 where the Pirates came to town, and I'm on the Pirates side of the clubhouse, and I'm looking around, and I don't recognize anybody for Pittsburgh except O'Neill Cruz. He's the only story, and right now, because he's had some up and down seasons, mostly because of injuries, he's now no longer O'Neill Cruz. Right, he was supposed to be what Ellie De La Cruz is right now, and there's still a lot of bloom on the rose for O'Neill Cruz, just hitting some serious missiles. I think a lot of fans are kind of waiting to see, like, oh, hold on, prove yourself a little bit more, and now we'll start turning into your games, on a nightly basis, like they are now for Ellie De La Cruz.
absolutely. And that's the thing with Skenes. Like when he played, I guess it was he pitched. Oh man, there was a doubleheader last Wednesday, I believe, Tuesday or something against the Tigers, and it was everybody was tuning in the middle of the day. Scooble pitched in the first game. It was like what everyone wanted to see. These two teams that have been in the mud the past few years. So it goes a long way. It really does for those organizations. And a guy like Skenes, everyone has their jokes about him getting traded at the end of his control, being a Yankee, whatever it may be. Like we'll see. We'll deal with that then. I want to enjoy them now. And he's the type of pitcher that I think can learn to adjust when things get hard. And we always say that. Guy comes up, pitches well. How does the league adjust to him? Counter adjustment. That's the fun chess game, right? And a lot of times you look at the underlying stats and you say, yeah, if the league adjusts, there may not be a counter adjustment for this player. He's the opposite. I think that he has what it takes to sustain success from many, many years to come.
That's a great point, because we're seeing guys slowly, very slowly, catching up to some of those fastballs. Again, if you're throwing 102, 103, good luck. But hitters are adjusting. That's something that Rockies manager Bud Black has talked about recently. Is players are catching up to those high fastballs. Right, they've been seeing it for so many years. Guys are throwing at the top of the zone. They're slowly but surely starting to catch up to those things. You look at what Jose Ramirez, see where he's done a lot of his damage. He's able to get those pitches up in the zone now, and so. Right, hitters are going to adjust, so you still need to have really great stuff. You still need a good pitcher's mindset, and Paul Skenes checks all of those boxes.
And that's where the changeup comes in for me. Against left-handed hitters, being able to throw a plus changeup off of that 99, 100 mile an hour, especially if they've been timing it up. And when you time it up like that and you know it's there, you're looking for it. And a lot of players who may struggle against breaking balls will say, I'm sitting fastball. Boom, here's the changeup. You're out in front, you roll over, you got a ground ball to first base. That's the type of stuff that comes with time and just time on task. and experience of I don't have to get the strikeout here. I just need this guy to roll over to first base. I'll save myself the 6 pitches in this at bat. And when I need this strikeout against Aaron Judge, against these big time players, if I need to kind of work the count more, okay. So that's the learning curve that kind of happens with a lot of these pitchers. So it's going to be interesting and fun to watch him go through that.
Yeah, it really is. And, I'm probably going to sound like a wet blanket, right? And, when we have these conversations, like, all right, would you rather the Yankees or the field to
Yeah.
represent the American League? Do you rather, or do you think that this player is going to be headed for the Hall of Fame after 2 weeks in the big leagues, or is it more likely that he isn't, right? And you almost don't want to have that conversation. So that's why where I started was saying Steven Strasburg. If we set the bar for him, and again, so much of it we don't know when it comes to Tommy John surgery, right? Which was the
Mhm.
unfortunate undoing for Steven Strasburg. But if we look at him, maybe more so than a Felix Hernandez, right? If we're talking about these young guys who are striking out a ton and having immediate impact, 3.24 career ERA in parts of 13 seasons for Steven Strasburg. So he's got 13 years. I think Skenes shouldn't have a problem with that. 113 wins. Okay, not a ton, but again, getting 100 wins now in baseball in today's day and age, right, can be a different one. Was an all-star 3 times. That might be surprising that it was that few, and only got Cy Young Award votes in 3 different seasons. But look, he did lift the trophy in 2019 as a member of the Washington Nationals, and ultimately for so many players, that is the most important thing. So on that leaderboard, on that list of the accolades and on the resume for Steven Strasburg, which ones do you see coming to fruition for Paul Skenes? And do you want to make everybody smile in the city of Pittsburgh and say, you know what? Paul Skenes will win a World Series with the Pirates. Clay Snowden, the floor is yours.
First off, you have me thinking Strasburg may be overrated with some of those accolades. I mean, come on, man. But no, I think Skeens can absolutely get more All-Star appearances, and maybe that's because he's on the team. You got to have one, and he's the best player on that team. But hey, it doesn't matter. He was in that boat too. So at least that I don't care about wins at all. The ERA is going to be interesting. That could be close. End of the day, I think Skeen's going to have as good, but I'll go better career. I will. And I also think it's a little unfair because Strasburg's career ended on a poor note, and multiple years of just people kind of, what is this guy doing? Is he hurt? Come back. Well, you can still be hurt. Just kind of a sour taste. But give me Skeens, man. Who cares? When it happens in 14 years, this will be off YouTube probably. So who cares?
That's right. Yes, I like that. Are you taking the over on 285+ million in
Yes,
earnings?
I
That one
would
I
take
probably
the
would
over.
too. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think his next contract could be that.
Yeah, look, I wanted to maybe discuss about like who predictions as far as the month of June, who's going to pop off after Aaron Judge, Jose Ramirez popped off, Ezekiel Tovar, believe it or not, most extra base hits in the National League, the Rockies shortstop there. But
Good player.
could Skeens possibly with a big June insert himself into the conversation for maybe getting an All-Star bid, or is there not enough time for him to represent the Pirates in Texas, seeing as though he didn't debut until a couple weeks ago?
No, I think he can. MLB would want that, wouldn't they? I mean, wouldn't you want your most marketable player from a team that doesn't exactly have? And I don't want to, forget anybody like a Brian Reynolds or anything off the top of my head, but off the top of your head, if you're listening to this right now, think, okay, who's the obvious All Star there? I mean, there isn't one to me. So yeah, I mean, why not, man? If he keeps pitching this way, and how many? Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but like, what's the least amount of starts that an All Star has made? Is kind of the question I would be thinking of. Is it 10? Is it 12? Is it 14? Like, I don't know. I'm sure that there's some out there that have been pretty low when you're on a bad team. But if I'm a Pirates fan, I'm voting him in. If I'm me voting and I go to the Pirates ballot, I'm voting him in as well.
Yeah, technically speaking, closers make less than 10 starts, but No,
Yeah,
I know. Yeah,
that
I feel
that
like 10.
and their closer's not getting in this year. We know that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, to your point, I think that could really help them. That is probably a major factor too in being an all-star this year is who are the better options. And right now, if you're looking at Baseball Reference, Bailey Falter, hey, doing a nice job in the rotation for them, but he leads the team in B WAR. Mitch Keller, he very well
Yeah, good.
is deserving right after that extension that he had. He was an all-star last season, so he could be there. But you're right. Like talking about one of the most marketable names, the biggest draws right now, you can go ahead and bend the rules a little bit because there really aren't rules, right? For things like that. And I think everyone would be very happy to see him in Texas.
How many Mitch Keller All-Star jerseys do you sell, and how many Paul Skenes All-Star jerseys do you sell? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a little bit of a we may want Skenes here, even if it's a toss-up.
Yeah, no, very true. I don't know how many people from Cedar Rapids, Iowa would make the trek down to Texas at Globe Life Field for where the Rangers are going to be hosting the All-Star game. But the folks from LSU for Paul
Ooh.
Skenes, I mean, come on, that they're making the trek, no doubt about it. So I like those predictions for sure. All right, let's do a little previewing before we get out of here on some of the upcoming series, the most intriguing ones. I've referenced Ezekiel Tovar recently, and I'm going to be working on an article. And look, you cover this guy plenty. Ezekiel Tovar, Ellie De La Cruz, two franchise shortstops for their franchise, right? Could they be any different and have completely different skill sets and be thought of about differently, despite the fact that when you're looking at wins above replacement, they're a lot closer than probably a lot of people would think.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're two really interesting guys. 3-game set there in Colorado after the Rockies almost beat the Dodgers. Believe it or not, that was a,
yeah.
a strange one. Betts, Otani, Freeman, 1-2-3 in the first inning on both Friday and Saturday night for Dakota Hudson and Cal Quantrill. That had never been done by a team yet
I saw
this
your
year.
tweet and I was cracking up.
So, of course, the Rockies because baseball.
Yeah, and so sorry you cut out there for a second, but about Tovar and Ellie, to me, and I love them both. I'm a big fan of both. To me, Tovar just doesn't quite get the hype that he deserves in the national realm. Probably part of the, just not being as good of a team. He doesn't have the elite flashes of freak like athletic ability that Ellie has. But Ellie's been really struggling. I think he has one home run in the past month. Like he's stealing a bunch of bases. He's not getting on base a bunch. He's not hitting with the same exit velocities. It's a little weird what's going on there. And Tovar's improved, much improved. His power's improved too. And I think there's even more to grow into for there. So I think that like if you look 5 years down the road, them being in a similar discussion is not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it's true. Two 22-year-old shortstop, completely different skill set. Tovar right now wins above replacement going into Sunday, 2.3. Ellie De La Cruz, 1.9. Tovar putting the ball in play. Ellie De La Cruz, 79 strikeouts
Hmm.
starting the day up there amongst the leaders, the wrong kind of leaders, right, in that category. So that's interesting. San Francisco at Arizona. Which of these two teams are going to reach the postseason? Someone's got to win. I joked on our last show that the Diamondbacks and Mets. Someone's got to win the series. Except I realized it was 4 games. And what happened? They split. The
Right.
Mets won the first 2, and they still ended up splitting. Same thing can't happen here with these two teams. Do you have faith in one over the other that one of them is going to figure it out and maybe make a push for the postseason between the Giants and Diamondbacks?
I thought about this question a lot when I saw it come across, and I thought I really don't like love either one of these teams. Arizona's dealing with some injuries. I mean, Zach Gallen's out, Merrill Kelly, Erod's been out, so they could theoretically have something in their back pocket that when they get healthy. But Corbin Carroll's not looking the same. But I do think Arizona's a better team on paper, so I'll lean with them. The Giants, to me, they just don't cut it for me. Like, there's too many spots of like, this is a fine player, not a great player. I like they have some young outfielders kind of impressing right now, but I just feel like the Giants need star. They need something else there. I mean, Logan Webb is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about in the lineup every single day. They have enough that they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team, and I really don't think that they would make a ton of noise in the playoffs. So give me Arizona.
And I would agree. And Blake Snell going down with an injury today
Hmm.
against the Yankees, so he's still struggling. The Giants are really Padres, and it's only 1 year, but the Giants are Padres 2.0. They got Bob
Hmm.
Melvin there, where they bring in all these guys, and they all seem to be players that are good for a clubhouse, that they should be able to mesh. That chemistry should work out. But they've been hit by the injury bug in a major way, and that's been more of their downfall. So maybe give them the benefit of the doubt for 2025. But yeah, this doesn't seem like it's working out for them this year. Ryan's going to be down in Washington D.C. checking out Mets and Nationals before the London series. Are the Mets about to get embarrassed by the Nationals, who've been one of the kind of nice surprises in baseball?
I was thinking this could be like the official breaking point of like I struggle to say like have been surpassed by the Nats in terms of just like trajectory going forward. But this could be like if I'm a Mets fan and we lose to the Nationals, who we've handled the past couple of years, and a team that we have much higher aspirations. This could be the breaking point of like, yeah, it's done, it's over. Who wants JD Martinez and this whole litany of players who are expiring deals and whatnot?
Yeah, it's not a terribly favorable pitching matchup too for them right now. So I joked with Ryan that they need to, after every loss, they need a team meeting, because then they'll go on a 2-game little win streak there. We lose, team meeting, mandatory, get it done. Let's kind of figure some things out there. Are there any series for you that kind of stand out as like, hey, here's some interesting matchups, or I'm kind of curious how this one shakes out?
Too quickly, Cleveland with Kansas City and Milwaukee with Philly. Um, Kansas City is to me feels like that team that like I may be early on this and it'll happen later, but like kind of like Baltimore was a couple years ago. It felt like the Reds were last year, kind of the America's underdog story that everyone kind of likes for one reason or another. Hey, look at these guys; they're doing well, and like they usually don't. And there's no reason for us to hate them, so we like them. They kind of feel like that this year. I think Kansas City's pretty good. I think they're in a position to make a deadline move as well. Cleveland, they've always, held a high standard there, and I have a ton of respect for them. I don't want to sound disrespectful. I think they're playing better than their roster, if that makes sense. So that's going to be interesting just to see, like, if Cleveland just goes in there and sweeps them, then it's like, oh, okay, maybe I am wrong. Maybe David Fry is real. Milwaukee and Philadelphia is another one of like, I want to kind of take where's the high water mark on that? Like, does Philly continue to play really well and stick it to Milwaukee, who has also kind of turned into kind of like a Cleveland? A lot of different players coming in and out year and year, sustained success. You look at their roster, you say, "There's no way. Why is Blake Perkins playing, and why did he just come up with the RBI in a big spot? This doesn't make sense." And so I'm interested in seeing those two series.
Yeah, I don't think that we would see Kansas City and Cleveland in the American League Championship Series, but Brewers, Phillies, very well
Mhm.
could be the case. I'll tip my cap to Bob Nightingale. Had a good one. That was accurate. No errors, no mistakes. But pointed out today, the Brewers, who traded away their Cy Young Award winner and are without their number 2 starter and all-star closer in Devin Williams, now have a 7-game lead in the NL Central, the largest lead in baseball right now. So yeah, the Brewers have been exciting. And I think you talk about who America is rooting for. If you're not in Philly, you're probably not rooting for the Phillies in that
Yeah.
series. So those two, yeah, two really solid picks. Those will be good. And then Atlanta and Boston. I mean, of course, they got together on the Chris Sale trade. And I want to ask you, but it's an easy answer. Does Boston want to redo that Chris Sale trade? I don't think they do, but it's worked out a lot better for Atlanta so far.
Yeah, I like it. Boston's gotten good pitching. They have one of the better staffs in terms of ERA. Like it's going okay for them. And I don't want to sound dark and morbid. Like the Chris Sale injury is always going to be in the back of my head. Like when's it going to happen? It just, I like I said, I don't want to sound ill will towards him in any way. It's just the facts. Like every single year, he ends up getting hurt to some extent. What is that extent going to be? Is it 15 days and he's back, or is it a season long thing? I hope he stays healthy all year, and if he does, that is huge for Atlanta, who is struggling with the rotation, some injuries, some guys, like Charlie Morton's getting, he's up there in age, and another team, they're going to have to make a deadline move, no matter what. Acuna went down now. The outfield's ugh, kind of rough. The offense hasn't clicked yet, and the starting pitching depth isn't there. We haven't had this many questions about the team to like the Braves as a team in multiple years.
It's true. Yeah, they're struggling from that front. My dad and I we collect baseball cards on the Topps Bunt app. So we collect actual baseball cards too, but they've got a cool digital app and it's fun and we'll trade and do all kinds of stuff. And he was opening up some cards today and he said, Charlie Morton is still pitching. How old is he? So yeah, he's gonna be 41, I think, later this year. So he's 40 this year. Uncle Charlie sticking around. Not too many right-handers are still able to do that. Once a
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Pirate. Who else did the Charlie Morton play for that we're forgetting? Like,
oh, he was a Ray at one point, maybe.
yes, on the more recent side, he was with the Rays.
Golly, man, he's been on a lot. I was writing an article each month. I do the this day in history for the entire month. So I was doing the June one, and Edwin Jackson came up. 14 teams he played for, and I thought, man, this guy has to write a book. I mean, he has to. Think about how many stories he has. And at some point, getting traded, DFA'd, whatever, like, I don't care. I'll catch on somewhere. I know I will,
It's
But
true.
yeah, Charlie Morton's up there in age, and we'll see what the Braves do. They're going to be aggressive. I trust their GM more than any other GM in the sport. So that's why I'm like, if you're a Braves fan, don't hit the panic button just yet.
No.
Not that they have to. They're winning still, but
Alex Anthopoulos definitely knows what he's doing. So does Dave Dombrowski, who did not
yeah.
sign Charlie Morton, but Charlie Morton did play with the Phillies. He hit 4 starts. That was in between Houston and Pittsburgh when he's probably still figuring out, hey, how much more do I have left in the tank? And here he is.
There's another one here that's funny is Kevin Gossman played for the Reds. Everyone forgets that too.
And
He came
Giants.
in Giants,
Giants and
Reds. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys where you look at their back of their baseball card, their baseball reference page, you kind of forget, oh yeah, there was that little stopover. And that's happening more and more now with
Oh
guys,
yeah.
before they reach free agency if they're making too much in arbitration. So, gosh, we love our baseball. We love you joining us. If you're listening to this on the podcast side, head over to youtube.com. Make sure you check out Who's Better Baseball. Get to see our ugly mugs. This has been fun, Clay. I appreciate you stepping in, doing a great job on X at Clay_Snow without the W.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Make sure you're over at justbaseball.com, checking out all of Clay's great work besides Tigers, Reds. He's writing about all kinds of stuff in terms of Major League Baseball. At Who's Better BB is where you can find us on X. At Patrick Lyons is my personal account. We appreciate you joining us this week on Who's Better Baseball.